Shalom, family. So let's quickly touch on some of the news highlights from the last few days, and then we'll just chat about them quickly. The first one is they recovered the hostage bodies, a whole bunch of hostages. I posted that on the community wall as it was happening. Israeli leaders and politicians reacted on Sunday morning to the IDF's recovery of the bodies of hostages Hirsch Goldberg, Poland, Eden Yerushalmi, Carmel Gut, Almog Sarusi, Alexander Lobanov, and Ori Danino from Rafah in the Gaza Strip. Now, the sad thing about this, if the information is to be believed, these hostages were alive just minutes before the IDF got there. And as the IDF approached in the tunnel towards where these hostages were, the Hamas terrorists executed them horribly just to make sure that they were dead before the IDF arrived. This is the mentality and the type of monsters they're dealing with in this terror organization. And I want you to just remember that. This is not someone you negotiate with. This is not someone who is sane that can make a deal with you and give you your people back alive. And unfortunately, this kind of situation reiterates that thing I've been saying all along. How many are still alive? And how many are actually going to make it out by the end of this? And a lot of turmoil in Israel, different political parties blaming Netanyahu and saying he's playing a safe game and he's playing politics. He doesn't care about the hostages. Maybe that's true. And yes, I can probably see that. And he's trying to figure out his future and survival with all the dissent. We're getting back to that rumble before October 7 and a split in leadership. But every deal they've tried to make with this terror organization, the terror organization has asked for ridiculous things. Their survival, the IDF's complete withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, them remaining in power, the release of high-profile murderers and terrorists who have killed Israeli citizens that are in prison, putting those monsters back on the street. So how do you justify making a deal with people like that and allowing that to continue? You can't. So then it's not just Netanyahu trying to survive. It's the fact that you can't really make a deal with people like this and trust the deal to work. So again, coming back to the hostages, we keep praying for them because we believe in the power of prayer, and that some of those that are still alive will make it out by the end of this conflict. Columbia Task Force reports crushing discrimination against Jews and Israelis. Jewish students at Columbia University have been driven out of their dorm rooms, chased off campus, compelled to hide their Jewish identity, ostracized by their peers, and denigrated by faculty, according to a report released Friday by the university's task force on anti-Semitism. This is almost a snapshot, a picture of Germany 1939, just before Kristallnacht, where that hatred and dissent and anger and frustration towards the Jews being driven by those in power was taking root and growing and becoming more and more open in their work lives, in their studying, in everything, in every facet of their being. And we're seeing that more and more all the time. And again, as I keep saying, this is a lever that is forcing the final holdout Jews in the diaspora to say, you know what, enough is enough. For the safety of my family and for my sanity, we're going to make Aliyah, we're going back to Israel, we'll be amongst our own. Just in time for Jacob's trouble. Paris erupts in violence. Brutal knife fight amongst Afghan migrants leaves 4 injured and 6 arrested. This is happening all over Europe, not just Europe. This is happening in America. These illegal migrants coming in, and even the legal ones that they're allowing in huge amounts, coming with their ideologies, their issues, their wars, their strife amongst each other, and bringing those battles and chaos into your streets and making places that were once safe unsafe. That women can't travel alone anymore because they'll get attacked or raped or murdered in places that never happened generations before. And we're seeing this absolute chaos unfold all over the world. First world countries are now becoming third world countries, as this thing keeps picking up momentum and speed, and as this Islamic army of migrants is entrenching in the first world in preparation for? What do you think it's in preparation for? For the Antichrist to have an army in place when he needs it in all the most powerful nations to be used for that final stretch that everyone is heading towards. Modern Sodom and Gomorrah Burning Man Festival hosts virgin sacrifice parties. The 9-day extravaganza kicked off on Sunday, August the 25th, with festival goers known as burners. Isn't that interesting? Those who reject God and choose debauchery and sodomy and all the sexual immorality are set to burn in the lake of fire eventually, and they're already calling themselves burners. They set up their themed camps across the sun-baked events, including virgin sacrifice parties, where the organizers promote virgin sacrifice ceremonies every 30 minutes. They're already practicing a thing that I believe they will quite happily be doing in that final 7-year stretch, and accepting this pagan worship and these rituals, getting people used to these ideas and thoughts, and practicing this debauchery and sickness openly. They've digressed backwards into sick, mired evil, and they celebrate this right there in the open, under the sky, in God's face. And they wonder why there's a time of wrath coming like never before in the time of human history. They've already had another death at this Burning Man thing. It's ending today. But no, it's crazy. It's crazy and sick and twisted. And it's not just Burning Man. It's everywhere. Europe plans to introduce new biometric passport system. Japan set to introduce new entry system for foreign tourists. Europe is going to implement the new biometric passport system in November 2024, followed 6 months later by a new travel authorization for most of its visitors. The new process is in the final testing phase. Fingerprints and faces will be scanned as travelers pass through electronic gates. The Japanese government has announced plans to introduce a new travel authorization system which will require visitors to declare personal information online in order to enter the country. All of these systems they've been working on towards the mark of the beast and the control system that's coming for that final week of mankind. They've been testing, finalizing, perfecting this whole time in limited areas, and they're now done with their final testing stages, and they're setting dates for final implementation and rollout. And isn't it interesting that all of that rolls out now at the end of 2024, perfectly for the time of years that's ahead of us? Elon Musk, probably wise for me to limit travel after arrest of Telegram CEO Pavel Durov. I will only have to move to countries where free speech is constitutionally protected, Musk said in a response on X, to consider the implications of his travels in the wake of the arrest of Durov in France. So billionaires now worried about where they're going to fly in case they get locked up or arrested for free speech. And there is a list just in the last few weeks that they've been clamping down on free speech and platforms and everywhere, taking them to court, locking them up, shutting them down, sending in armed people to go and find these people. It's crazy when you look at it as a list and you see just how busy the New World Order busybodies have been and are being as they approach their deadlines. Mpox case reported in county jail in Nevada. The Clark County Detention Center had one reported case of an individual with monkeypox. Officials described sporadic cases of Mpox in Clark County residents. The most effective way for those at risk to protect themselves is by receiving 2 doses of the Mpox vaccine if eligible. That's what they say. What do I say? Avoid homosexual sex between men. No Mpox. Done. Amazing. Can you believe that? It's that simple. You don't need 2 doses. You just need to stop. Ancient disease from 3800 BC is making a comeback in children, causing crippling pain and making their teeth fall out. The ancient disease is scurvy. Now, when we hear scurvy, we think Pirates of the Caribbean, lack of oranges and vitamin C. It causes teeth to fall out and extreme pain in joints. It has tripled between 2016 and 2020 from around 8 per 100,000 kids to nearly 27. The condition is caused by a lack of vitamin C from fruit and vegetables, essential to keep skin, blood vessels, and ligaments healthy. And all these things are now making a comeback. Now, at the end of time, where there will be plagues and pestilences and all these things are rising again, sticking their heads out. And yes, a lot of time, let through the gates, Bill Gates, and people like that are manipulating and working with these things to the point of manipulating the genomes of mosquitoes and creatures, and suddenly you see a rise of them in your area where you never did, and people are getting sick and suddenly getting diseases they never had before, because mankind thinks he's God, small g, and he can control the population numbers and he can save the planet, but yet he can't even save himself without Jesus Christ. See how ridiculous this whole situation is. So yeah, not a dull moment. Things seem to be ramping up. It's getting crazier and busier by the moment. I'm getting more and more excited because every single sign is one sign closer to us being out of here. Jesus is in the field. He's busy working in the field. We're seeing a revival taking place. We're seeing young people giving their hearts to the Lord, people getting baptized, young Christians being excited and diving into the Word. So the Holy Spirit is working. Jesus is walking through the fields and working with us. We need to get down and busy with the ministry of God, the Great Commission, while there is still time, because our time is up. So keep praying for lost friends and loved ones. Keep reaching the lost. Keep touching lives around you, because at any moment, in the twinkling of an eye, it could all be over. Shalom.